If you could introduce yourself for everyone, that would be really great.
All right, my name's Matt. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm 29 years old. I'm a third-time applicant, and I got into PA school this past cycle.
Awesome, awesome. So, if you could tell us like a little bit about your journey from like where like it started, like when you decided you wanted to be a PA, and like kind of go from there.
All right. So I went to Syracuse University. I studied nutrition science and biology, and at that point, I had a feeling that I wanted to do something in medicine. So I was pre-med, just like everybody else. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I pursued that track, and I didn't want to jump into med school without any prior experience and not having any familiarity with the field in like hands-on. So I finished after I graduated in 2014. I got a job as a medical scribe at a urgent care company here in New York City, City MD. So I worked there as a medical scribe, and then I became one of the senior scribes and started training people. I think about a year and a half working there. We didn't have any PAs, but they just started the PA model. We were very busy during flu season, and so they brought on PAs to kind of help with the flow and kind of just improve the work culture because everybody was getting swarmed with patients. And that's actually the first time I actually worked with a PA. Didn't know what a PA was previously. And all the PAs, they were pretty laid back. They're very confident. They did everything the physicians did. Um, and I like that a lot of the PAs that I worked with, a lot of them came from the emergency room. We had some in ortho and ENT and cardiology. So they had a lot of background in all these different fields that even the physicians would consult with them on. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So that was your first time experiencing the PA. And funny enough, you mentioned that small world. I also worked for City MD, but one of Long Island locations. So that's a nice connection. Did you do anything else for patient care experience, or was it just simply the medical scribe stuff? And could you explain and elaborate? Because I know at City MD, it wasn't just a scribing job; it was a lot more.
All right. So as a medical scribe at City MD, it wasn't a traditional medical scribe. So most scribes, you like, for example, you do Scribe America. It'll be like going around on like a roller cart with a laptop and just typing up every single physical exam and note and HPI that the clinician will kind of relay to you. And at City MD, it's kind of like a dual role. You're kind of like a scribe, but also like a medical assistant in a way. You're responsible for patient intake. You're doing the history of present illness, review systems. You're doing any point of care testing. And in a way, it was a very good experience that I'd recommend to a lot of people that are in the New York, New Jersey, Long Island area, because in a way, you're kind of like a resident in a way. You go in, you get the story, you come out, you present to the doctor, you guys go in together and you kind of just get the gist of things. It's a lot of pattern recognition, and for the most part, you kind of know what the doctor's going to be prescribing based off of the clinical presentation. So that's pretty cool. So aside from prescribing, after City MD, I went on to NYU. I worked in orthopedic trauma as a patient care assistant. And then after that, well, while I was still working there, I was per diem at Northwell Go Health Urgent Care. So I was like a scribe MA there. And then from there, I'm a patient care assistant at the Hospital for Special Surgery, which is an
Very
orthopedic
cool.
hospital.
Awesome, awesome. And now I'm going to ask you some questions that I know everyone's dying to know. Could you tell us a little bit more about like your statistics and like I know you were one of the people who had not like the most traditional GPA. So if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Sure. I probably should have pulled some of this stuff out. But I'd probably have to look through some papers. But I think my first cycle applying, it was, I think I was about 2.5 years out from college. And I kind of just decided I wanted to do it. I was like, let me scram because, the cycle's already open. So I looked, I was like, oh, let me take my GRE. I didn't have micro. So I was like, let me scram. I took a 6 week accelerated course at one of the community colleges here, BMCC. I finished that. I didn't really study for my GRE. I took it. I got a 304. I was like, I'm not taking it again. And my stats, I think my GPA, my cumulative, my first cycle was a 3.14. And then I think I was at 3.0. I can't even remember the science GPA, but it was above the 3.0 minimums. And so, yeah, I applied to a bunch of schools. I didn't hear anything. I didn't get anything. So I told myself, I'm gonna take a year off. I'm gonna take a couple of years off. I'm gonna improve my app, get a variety of different clinical experience. I'm gonna kind of reevaluate my personal statement, reevaluate the type of schools I'm gonna apply to, and just look at different letters of recs, because I think one of the doctors did a letter of recommendation for me, and it was kind of like very bland. It was like template kind of thing, insert name kind of thing. And he showed it to me. I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. My second time around applying, it was 2019 to 2020. I believe my SAS was I took like a couple of classes. I think my GPA was like 3.1. And then I think it was my science GPA was 3.01. I interviewed at 3 schools. I got waitlisted for 3 schools. And then this past cycle, 2020 to 2021, I had 4 interviews, 2 acceptances, 1 waitlist, and 1 rejection. I interviewed 2 of the schools I interviewed for this past cycle. I was waitlisted for the previous cycle, and one
So
of them I was accepted to.
You were waitlisted 2 years in a row by the same schools?
So there was one school so 2 schools I got waitlisted my second cycle, and then my third cycle, I got rejected from one of those schools that I interviewed again with, and then the other one I got accepted to.
Awesome. So how many acceptances did you get your third time around? The one?
Two acceptances and 1 waitlist. Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing, what schools were those?
So one is Samuel Merritt in Oakland, California, and the other one is actually a developing program. It's ATSU at Santa Maria.
So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. So obviously you had to improve your application from cycle to cycle. So could you share with me, like, how did you personally improve the GPA part? Did you retake classes, or what was your plan there?
I did retake a couple of classes, and then I took like a pharmacology class because I was kind of interested in it, and I thought it was because it was a higher level course. But all my prereqs I got, all the classes I retook or took, I got A's in. I think I took only like 5 classes in total. One of them was like med term because I thought, a bunch of schools, some of them require like a 1 or 3 credit class in med term. And then improving so that was the question, right? Just GPA wise.
Mm-hmm. And then in other ways, like, you can expand on that further. Like, I know you mentioned the like variety of patient care experience. Did you do anything else to like further improve your application?
I think the variety of clinical experience, I think that really helped my application as well, because during interviews they did mention that I had some pretty good clinical experience, and I got great letters of recommendation. I think the job where I worked in orthopedic trauma, I learned probably the most because in that role, the doctor kind of treated me like his PA. So he had me, I did all the rooming of the patients. He taught me how to use the cast saw to take the cast off, taught me about cast applications. He taught me how to read MRIs and CTs and x-rays, and taught me all about the different surgeries he was doing and different indications. And it was pretty cool. And I think I was able to talk about that during my interview, which was a highlight.
Awesome. So you would say definitely the variety of patient care experience, the actual what you did during your patient care experience, and those letter of recommendations that came from there, you would say that's what pushed you over the edge?
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because it's a lot of the patient care experience. I think it's the quality, the type of experience that you're getting, but also what you got out of it, what you learned from it, what it taught you as a person. And then just having a solid letter of recommendation from somebody that knows your work ethic, knows your character, your personality, how you deal with patients, whether or not you're empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate, how you deal with your colleagues. I think that's really speaks volumes. And so at my second cycle, at all three of my interviews, they mentioned my letters of recommendations.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's very cool.
Thanks.
So now talking a little bit more about like the application side, how many schools did you apply to, and what was the criteria you were looking for when you were choosing schools to apply to? If you remember how many schools you applied to, by the way.
First cycle, I don't remember the exact number, but it was definitely over 25. Second cycle, I think it was still over 25, but I don't know. It was like plus or minus a couple. And third cycle, I think it was exactly 25. But for me, it was a little tougher with schools because some of my prereqs were expiring. Like depending on like I looked at schools where I wanted to go to, but they had like a 5-year minimum, and then some had a 7-year minimum, and there's a 10-year minimum. So that kind of like kind of made it tougher to choose some of the schools that I did want to go to and did want to apply to. And because being a lower GPA applicant, I told myself, I should not limit myself to the number of applications because in a way, I know a lot of people on the forums or PAs in general say, don't apply to that many schools, it's not going to help you. And in my mind, I said, if I apply to more, there's a higher chance that, I'll be seen because when you're a lower GPA applicant, you just want to be seen. You want a shot and you want a chance. So, so like over 25 pretty much every cycle.
Yeah, and what were you looking for in those schools specifically? Those 25, like was it location? Was it cost? Was it GPA? Was it like go ahead like acceptance rating?
For the most part, first thing I was looking at was whether or not the school had a holistic review of applications. I looked at, of course, I looked at the cost, location. The mission was very important, and the type of community service, if they did any, or like volunteer work. I was very interested in something with something related to international, like international volunteer work. For example, Samuel Merritt, they do like an international mission trip pretty much every year, but they couldn't do it this past year because of COVID. I thought that stuff was pretty interesting. But for the most part, I wasn't too worried about location or cost because I told myself, no matter where I go, I'm just going to work hard and I just need a shot to get into school. And I don't think that the school where you go to school, I don't think it matters as much, only because in the end, you have to be a self-learner and you have to push yourself. And in the end, the professors aren't the one that's going to be taking the pants for you. I did look at, of course, their pants rates and also their attrition rate. But yeah, I kind of factored a little bit of everything into it.
Awesome. Great. And so did you happen to mention, so now this is moving on to your personal statement. Did you happen to mention why your GPA was at the place it was when you applied? Did you like bring that up in the personal statement? And if you did bring it up, how did you explain it?
So I personally, I did. I think everybody has their own situation and a lot of different things going on. For me, I was in a kind of a tough transition phase from kind of high school into college. So my dad passed away when I was 16 and my parents were divorced. So I lived with my dad and that transition was kind of tough for me. So I did describe it. I did talk about kind of what I had to deal with during that transition phase, and just like I had like a lot of legal cases and going back and forth between school and all that stuff. And then I kind of just I was in a slump, and I don't think I was like in the right mindset for school. I wasn't planning on going to college after. I was planning on enrolling in the military, but actually my ex-girlfriend and also my cousin, they were the ones who kind of convinced me to do it. And then a lot of like familial pressure being a first generation college student that, oh, you have to go to school. And I thought the military route would be a little better because I can get a little disciplined. They can kind of keep me on the right track. And then I can always go back to school after and it can be paid for. But I think at that point, I was not doing school for myself. I was doing it for somebody else. I wasn't happy. Um, I wasn't happy in general. I wasn't happy with school. I didn't have the right approach, the right mindset to school, and I think that really messed me up. But after my sophomore year, I kind of had a change of pace, and so I just kind of got more involved with a lot of different clubs, activities, and I just turned myself around. So I did explain it. I didn't want to go too much into the negatives when I explained it. So I normally recommend to a lot of applicants to go maybe like 2 to 3 sentences like that, and then just focus on the highlights. What did you do to kind of bounce back from that? How did you persevere? And just highlight your application.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm. By the way, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad.
Thanks.
But yeah, could you highlight maybe some of the extracurriculars you had done, or maybe some of the volunteering or shadowing you did?
So I did most of my volunteer work actually throughout college. I was in a bunch of different clubs, and we did a lot of like Habitat for Humanity and Relay for Life. I was part of the professional chemistry fraternity, so I did a lot of like chemistry tutoring, organic tutoring. Um, we did also a lot of community service events, fundraisers. I was the vice president of the fraternity, so I headed a lot of the committees, and I organized a lot of events at different junior high schools, elementary schools, high schools. We did science Olympiads, we did science fairs, we did demonstrations at the malls. So a lot of that kind of stuff. We did like proctoring and judging of different like chemistry or science events. And then after college, while working, I did like a lot of medical volunteer work at like 5Ks. For one example would be like the JP Morgan Chase. They had like a 5K. And I also did a trip to Nepal. Originally, I was supposed to do a like global brigades trip to Ghana, but it kind of got canceled. It had some conflict over there, and so I already took the week. I already took the like a couple weeks off, and so at the time, Nepal had an earthquake. It had a pretty bad earthquake, and one of the physicians that was going to go with us to Ghana, he did a medical mission right before he started medical school, like I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. And so he knew one of the guys that was out in Nepal, and basically they were trekking through the Himalayas, and that earthquake happened, and they saw the impact that it had in one of the villages there. And so they started a nonprofit there, and they started to organize to have people come over and do some like humanitarian, like disaster relief. So I brought a bunch of scribes with me, and we went over to Nepal for like a month or so. We came up with a cost efficient, earthquake resistant way of rebuilding the homes. So we came up with something called CFCBs, compressed stabilized earth blocks. And basically, we met with the community, and they said, don't worry about the homes. Let's focus on the two primary schools. So that's what we actually focused on. And yeah, we did a lot of different things there. We had an agricultural garden. We built a greenhouse. We grew coffee plants and avocado plants as like a alternative source of income for that little town in the Himalayas. So it was a good experience.
It sounds like you're saving the world. That's crazy. That's a very cool experience. Yeah, I'm always telling my students to do something to stand out, and that's definitely. I mean, they don't have to go across the world to do it, but that's definitely one way to do it. And I think that's very impressive. So, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes you made while applying, and ones that you wish you had avoided?
I think for me, it would be rushing the process. My first cycle, I definitely rushed through it. I think I made a lot of like tiny little mistakes here and there. Maybe not asking the right people for letter of recommendations, and maybe finding somebody that knew me a little bit better, somebody who was more eloquent with their words. And another thing was probably researching schools. I think back my first cycle, I was more like, oh, I meet the minimum here, meet the minimum here, meet the minimum here. But I didn't really look at, I guess, the application review, like how admissions would review your application. My second time around, I think I kind of like narrowed it down a little better. What else? I think probably asking for more help. That probably would be another thing. I think very often I was not part of any like pre-PA forums, and really didn't ask for help. I think that was probably partly how I was raised too. Asian people, we don't really ask for help, and we just like, oh yeah, we'll just figure it out ourselves. That's how it's always been since I've grown up. Parents didn't really speak English. They don't know how to help you with your homework. You ask them math homework, they're like, I don't know what the question's asking. But so, and I think
Yeah.
just over time, it's just maturity, being able to ask for help when you need it. I think that's also a big quality, because it's having humility is a very big thing about being a PA too, because eventually there will come a time when there will be a disagreement with your supervising physician, and you'll have to handle that too.
Yeah, no, 100%. Humility is a huge part of any job, but definitely the PA profession. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, who did you actually end up getting your letters of recommendation from?
So I got one of my letters of recommendation from a physician at CityMD. He started a little bit before me. He ended up being moved up the ranks. So he became the medical director, then the regional medical director, then he became the senior vice president of medical operations there. He offered me when CityMD was expanding to Seattle, he offered me a position to go over there and expand it with them, but I turned it down. But still, good friends. I was just at a wedding with him this past weekend, so yeah, he knew me very well, inside and outside of work. He knew my story. He experienced my work ethic. He knew the type of person I was, the type of energy I brought to work every single day, the type of humor I have, the way I teach others, and the way I interact with patients as well. My second letter of rec was from the trauma surgeon. He spoke very highly of me, and I did a lot of work for him. He taught me, like, in a way, he always told me that I was kind of like his PA. So he knew me very well, and I think he could speak to the type of work that I did. My third letter of rec was, I had one from my advanced nutrition professor. She was also my kind of like my counselor back in my guidance counselor in college. So yeah, she like kind of knew me for 4 years basically. She kind of went through my scheduling, my courses, and I took a class with her. I think in my major there was probably like 130 females, and there's probably like 5 guys. So it's hard for her not to remember me. Then I had a assistant manager that I worked with at CityMD. And then I am missing one. A PA. How can I forget? Yeah, there was a PA that I worked with from Northwell, Go Health Urgent Care. And yeah, we worked with each other for maybe like a year or so. And we used to go out also. So like he knew me inside out. I knew his story. He knew my story. He graduated from MEDEX, and he was also a non-traditional applicant as well. So we kind of like, it was very easy to bounce ideas and ask some questions.
Awesome. So now I want to kind of transition to like the interview. So how many interviews did you say you got your third time around?
Third time around, I had 4 interviews.
And did you feel like a lot of pressure going into those interviews to talk about your GPA and why it was lower, or did you kind of let the interviewers take it from there, and like you didn't feel that kind of pressure?
So I didn't feel that kind of pressure, only because I was very comfortable with where I was. I kind of accepted whatever. I had nothing to hide. I kind of, you kind of, when you apply, you kind of just spread everything out, and they know everything about you. Only thing they don't know is probably like my license number or something like that. But yeah, I already kind of prepped in advance how I would handle the questions, how I would answer it. For the most part, just being honest, just tell as it is. You have nothing to hide, and you shouldn't have anything to hide. And yeah, that's how it was for me. I didn't feel any pressure going into it. Of course, I was, a little nervous going into interviews as usual, but once I get going, it's cake, just like conversation.
Awesome. So now coming to the end of this, but what would be your best advice to give to a pre-PA who has a lower GPA?
For a lower GPA, I would say to make a list, figure out what type of which schools you want to apply to. what kind of prereqs that they require, how many hours they require, what kind of letters they require. And from that point, just look at the school and see if their mission aligns with yours, and then the type of application review that they perform. And then from there, I would come up with a plan to kind of execute. Okay, I have a 2.99 GPA. All my schools, they require a 3.0. What classes do I need to take, or what classes should I retake to kind of bump my GPA up a little? And then just look for quality clinical experience, get some strong letters of recommendation, write an amazing personal statement. I think, any job that you have, just try to go into it, do what you have to do with a lot of energy, stay humble, ask a lot of questions, and go in with the mentality that, there's nothing that you're not willing to do. And I think, people will notice you, and, they'll help you no matter what. They'll support you.
Definitely. And a part of that is also probably applying early. When did you apply? Did you apply as early as you would like?
I don't think I did. My third cycle, I think I applied somewhat mid-July, end of July. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not gonna rush it. Because I knew from my first time, I was like, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna make sure I review everything, make sure all my supplements, everything is on top of. Look over my personal statement like 10 times, and yeah. I think right now I'm helping a couple students, and they're all like going crazy. They're like, I need to apply in May, or I'm not going to get in. And I tell them, I'm like, well, are you happy with your personal statement? Are you happy with the COVID essay that you want to do? And, I've gone through a lot of that with them, and everybody is just in that anxiety. If I don't apply early, I'm not going to get in. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's important to apply early, but you want to be ready when you apply. You want to be confident in your application.
Yeah, definitely. I really think that's an important point to emphasize, is that it's not about rushing. It's about making sure everything's in place and ready to go. Yeah. So when are you actually starting school?
So because I am waiting on the developing program at Santa Maria to get accreditation, they're pending accreditation at the ARCPA meeting in June. I think that's mid to late June. And once I hear about that, whether or not they get accredited, then I will better decide on schools. I put my deposit for both. I have a cost benefit analysis, a Venn diagram already going, but I'd like to kind of get all the information before I make a final decision. But likely it would be September for one school and October for the other.
Awesome. And could you, for the people who don't know what a program that's in like its developmental stages, could you explain that for them?
So, developing PA program is a program that is applying for to start as a PA program to get accredited. And so there's a couple of site meetings they have to do, and they have a lot of kind of policies, logistics to kind of meet. And so right now they're interviewing, and we have a list of accepted students already, but we're just waiting for the ARC to do the site meeting, have their meeting, and confirm whether or not they're going to be accredited to start. One thing about the accreditation is that developing schools, as long as they get provisional accreditation, you can still sit for your pants.
Oh, wow. Very cool. So, I mean, that's it for me. It was a pleasure meeting you. It was really great, all the insight you gave. If you have any final parting words of wisdom, I'm sure that everyone would love to hear them.
Not much. I mean, if you guys ever need any help, you can hit up your boy right in front of you. You hit me up. You can hit up J Kid in the back. I see him. He's the assist leader right there for the
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Actually, at my hospital, we actually did surgery on him in the past.
No way. That's crazy.
Somewhere.
That's so funny. Jason Kidd. Nice. I like it. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for giving up your time. I hope the wedding was fun. But yeah, overall, it was wonderful meeting you, and it was awesome to see your side of the application process.
Likewise, I appreciate it. Hope you have a good rest of your Memorial Day.
Absolutely, man.